Good afternoon, my name is Kirsty Dignam and I'm here to look at the weekly energies with today's Monday's Musings on the 11th of August 2025. I wanted to say October then, which is really interesting. This is the second time that I have started to record this video and it was quite necessary. Normally I'm a jump in, get on, whatever wants to come through, let it come through type person, because I can get really caught up with overthinking, and that feels important to acknowledge this week for many people that may not be acting on what they know deep in their core they want to be doing. However, there was also another side this morning, or this afternoon actually, that made me take stock and feel into whether or not that energy felt right, and it didn't. So this is the second attempt. The hair is just as wild. The information will probably be very, very similar. But what is important and what feels important this week is to really step into our flow and to make time and space for that. And that does mean that we may mess up a little bit and have to restart a few things this week, but to acknowledge that that too is part of the process. Okay, how do we do that? Well, we reflect on the information that we have been given, be that emotions, be that whatever has happened this weekend in particular, or be that what we once started that has now been adjusted. So when this video was first being recorded, what I was speaking about was how I could feel. Again, that's very important this week, that the energies were a little bit chaotic, a little bit skew-if. In all honesty, what I'd failed to admit was that I felt a little bit chaotic and a little bit skew-if, which I will get to in a moment in regards to availability and time management. The information that was coming through, however, was very much linked into the fact that, yes, astrologically around us, we have quite a bit going on. We have Mercury, which is stationed in Leo. We also have, I think it's Venus that's conjuncting Jupiter, so real expansive heart energy there. And there's something with Uranus as well, sextiling something. Uranus sextiling something, but whenever Uranus is in the mix, we get the crazy, like the crazy hair, the wild energy, the Heyoka type vibration coming through. And that is the invitation this week, to be aware of all of these things, but keep coming full circle to how do you feel in sharing what you are being gifted. With the full moon in Aquarius just gone, that beautiful second blue moon in Aquarius, we've been shown a lot of things about how we see ourselves, how others see ourselves, and our place in a wider community or vision. For myself, I did some beautiful donation healing at the local market in the community, which just really helped me to connect to some incredible souls, both known and new, to talk about wonderful things from animal healing through to returning to spiritual paths, however that may look, to different concerts that people have attended, and, you know, really sharing in what it means to be alive, what it means to be living. It also empowered me to connect back to many things that I enjoy, that I have, for my own reasons, pushed to one side. And with that comes deep honesty why we may have done that. Now, for me personally, it's to do very much with loss. I felt this weekend a huge shift in the happiness and gratitude that I felt, but with that light, obviously, an extensive shadow of fear rising, to do with losing or having something pulled out from underneath me, taken away from me because of being in my fullest potential. Now that's my journey. You may resonate with that. You may have your own version of that. But this week there is a wonderful opportunity, particularly on the 11th of August, particularly today. We can say it's linked into the closing down of the Lion's Gate, but you know, heart expansive energy is open all the time. The support is available all the time. These beautiful portals and dates and seasons help us to reflect. They give us an opportunity to step outside of time, which is something I'm going to speak about in a moment, but they are there all the time. How many times can I say the word time in one video? For me, it was very much to do with loss, very much to do with things being taken away from me. For others, whatever is rising now is an opportunity to look at our heart being expanded and perhaps where we may not feel safe in that. Not in a judgmental way, not in a fixing manner, but just to hold space. You can do things to help shift the energy, transform the energy. I've placed a few particular stone people on my altar, which are really helping me with the grief that I feel, and letting go, or rather bringing back home the parts of me and my own journey that I've pushed to one side for whatever reason. And that is the invitation this week. But don't get too distracted with that, because that's the invitation always to be the fullest, wholest version of ourselves that we can be. It isn't always easy, and there's times when we're going to be better at it, or less competent in it, or at least feel less competent in it, and that's all part of the process as well. There is a temptation this week to go off on a tangent, and that could be that wild energy. And it is, again, it's not trickster energy, it's an opportunity to allow the process to take you on a journey. Allow what you are discovering to open up aspects of yourself that have, for whatever reason, been hidden. To trust your ability to navigate with direction, provided it feels okay. So whilst I'm aware at the moment the information and the energy coming through may feel a bit scattered, it feels completely different from the first video that I did, because I feel different from the first video that I started to do, thankfully only 4 minutes in. The reason I felt a bit all over the place, ironically, I was setting up a Calendly link for an event that I'm putting on the 1st of November, which is to journey with our ancestors. And in that energy, we're going to be looking into ancestral healing from the point of view of taking forward the gifts, not just fixing and getting rid of what we don't like about what we've inherited, but really transforming them and taking forward the gifts. So of course, the way that I create, I'm going to be shown reasons why I may not be able to do that myself. And it came in the guise of time. I was trying to place the event onto Calendly, and there was a lot of conflict with my own calendar and a lot of conflict with my own ability to work with these higher technologies of, you know, the computer and websites, and all of this goes over my head. It's totally out of my comfort zone, which is something we're going to be asked to embrace more and more as the following months come on. The reason being, we believe they're out of our comfort zone, but they're actually something we have yet to tap into. Feeling into the Calendly malarkey, it didn't want to work. No matter what I did, it didn't want to work. I've just realised I haven't got my glasses on, actually. My eyes are a bit dry. It didn't want to work because I hadn't aligned my own availability with the event that I was trying to put on. I've arranged for it to be for 4 hours, but I'd actually put 5 hours into the system because that's what I need to prepare before and after. A lot of the things we believe we're offering are not as focused as they could be, because what we're doing is getting in conflict with the time that we have available to do it, or at least believing the time we have available to do it. Why? Because we are either not acknowledging or putting to one side the time needed to prepare, both before and after an event. Now that could be an individual event, things have shifted, things have changed, or a collective event. And that's where I can really sense the importance of ceremony coming through, to mark an occasion, to celebrate what has happened, to acknowledge with that the shadows that may rise as a result, to make time, to make peace inside with the many different versions of ourselves we find ourselves being at any given time. To expand beyond one role, beyond one identity, beyond one time zone, beyond one view of time itself. Is there anything else to add on that before I feel into the collective energies in order to do the reading? Know that you can hold space for both. Know that you can hold space for your own stuff and what is going on as well. You can be aware of what's going on and apply it to your life, but you can also add to that too. Be very, very aware of your contribution to whatever is happening. This morning, yes, the technology was confusing. This morning, yes, I'd, tried X, Y, and Z, but this morning I'd also got myself a bit scattered and fell into the trap of, I don't know how to do technology, woe is me, I need a virtual assistant. My time is so much far better spent doing X, Y, and Z. I had all these plans. So looking at our role in our own scattered energy, looking at what happens when we feel discomfort, and acknowledging and taking responsibility for our reactions to that, being very honest with our reactions. Are our reactions guiding us towards expansion, or are they still, and I'm going to say still, born of old traumas and wounds? There's only one way through it, and that is to go through it, but to ensure that you feel safe enough to do that and held enough to do that. So is there anything else on that? I felt like I wanted to hold my breath. Well, I did. I held my breath then. That anticipation. With Mercury and the energies being stationary, there is no going back now. We've really kind of reached that tipping point. I'm not going to say that there's certain points in time, or, you know, it's not all down to one point in time. However, a collection of those points of time all add up, and we've kind of tipped the scales now in what is going on for us. There's no going back, and there's going to be mourning and loss and grief with that, or the temptation to force ourselves backwards, and that can come under the guise of many pleasantries, many comfortable narratives, many familiar feelings that are safe. There's a real difference between safety and restriction. They can often come under the same appearances. We can get right at that point, an example, when we're in transition, when we're pushing out that new creation, that new life, that whatever that may be, that next step. We can get to that point where we know there's no going back, and it can be the one thing that we really, really want, and all of a sudden we can't do it. All of a sudden we need to move. All of a sudden we need to take time out. The amount of times I've had women get up and say that they will come back and give birth later, even though the head is visible, you know. And this week we're there. This week we're there. And nothing else is really needed but to acknowledge that. To really look at our reactions and ensure we know whether they're from fear or from love. As the heart expands, and it's going to continue to expand, obviously, but as the heart expands, particularly with all of this in Leo, so too does the fear. But we can hold space for both. We can hold space for hope and for grief. We can hold space for fear and for joy. It's that fine line and middle ground this week that's going to be really, really important. I'm just wondering if I can get by without doing the reading with my glasses on. Yes, okay, I just may not see the images, but this week it's very much about concentrating on what we see rather than what we physically see. I'm being drawn to a guardian, yes, a gargoyle that I got from the car boot yesterday. I've always tried to really connect to angelic realms, and whenever I do, I always immediately see the image of a gargoyle, which I remember years ago was a little bit disempowering, actually, because I'd had all these assumptions of what a guardian may be, of energies that were good for me, what they may look like, and all I kept seeing was a gargoyle. And at the car boot yesterday, for the first time, I actually accepted this less than perfect view of divinity and picked up a wonderful character, a wonderful guardian, a little gargoyle. And his whole imagery here, where he sat just like tapping his head, he's kind of like, I'm just done with everything that I've seen in front of me. I need to seek out something else now. This is the vibration we're going to be facing this week, and it is going to be different. It is going to be confusing. It is going to be tempting to go back to the safety net of what we know. That safety net is you. Keep coming back to your body, keep coming back to this moment, keep coming back to trusting the process. It is far more simple than it actually appears. The opportunity this week is to really lighten the load, to really define what we take forward now into 2026. So with that in mind, I am stretched for time because I've tried to squash in things and not recognize where I haven't been prioritizing things. So I'm going to look at the energies this week. I'm going to connect to the tools that I have and look at how to best navigate them. And I'm going to get on with it. And sometimes that can be the most compassionate thing that we do for ourselves, to get on with it. Okay. Energies this week. I'm going to use the Light Seers Tarot. The reason I'm going to use these is because they're very relevant to everyday life. The characters on the cards are normal people, and that feels really, really important to acknowledge what a strength that is, what a gift that is, particularly in the world of spirituality or feeling into the energies and astrology and, you know, what is going on in the world. We can get very caught up in the I'm not a spiritual person, I don't know what is going on, but actually we are all spiritual people. We are all here adding to the collective. This week is a real opportunity not only to see that because of the full moon, but to hone in on what that means for us. Energies this week and how to best navigate them. And it does mean letting go of very outdated beliefs we may have had. Yeah, Five of Swords at the bottom of the pack. So what do we do? What do we do when we let go of all these ideas? What do we do when we let go of our need to understand what is occurring? What do we do when we let go of that safety net here? Well, it's the Five of Swords in the background. Yeah, you can see that character that's like, I've done it. I'm so done with that. I'm moving forward in my way of thinking, particularly about the self. The Five is the changing, turning point. And there is that opportunity here if we can let go of the wisdom we think we have gained. So the crow is a beautiful, beautiful creature of wisdom. It is also the character that will guide us through any transformation or death. You can see some beautiful crows behind me here. But on that picture, you have the new birth of the crow being fed from the bones of the ancestors. So what are we actually taking forward from now until October, November time? What are we actually taking forward? What have we inherited? How are we utilizing those gifts in our best ability? So this morning, a classic. A lot of the women in my family are overstretched because they don't take time to prepare themselves both before and after giving something. Of course, I'm going to end up not wasting time, but feeling that whilst I'm booking an event for the journey to the ancestors. So really looking at the many ways that this information is available, deciding how you want to create with it, what you want to take forward. Yes, based on what you have been given, but also bringing forth your beautiful skills and your beautiful mindset to the creative process now as well. It's not about doing the same. It's not about doing the same as those before us. And there can be many ways that we think we're doing differently, but it could just be the same in a different form. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Overall, wow, I'm quite relieved actually, because until I got to the overall energy, there was no major arcanas, and that would be the second week in a row, which is very unheard of when you tap into the collective energies. And that can be how it feels this week. My eyes were drawn immediately to the Three of Swords in the middle of the pack, and I'm in the middle of the reading, and I'm very aware that that is a lot of the stuff that's coming up from my own energy with grief and heartbreak and loss. However, this week it can feel as it's not a dark night of the soul because it's coming from the heart, but it can feel almost as if we have been abandoned from being able to trust in the energies around us, the fates around us. However, they are there. It's the Hermit card. So it is an opportunity to go deeper if we want these deeper, more sacred relationships and connections, if we want wisdom to tell us something different, if we want to find answers that aren't repetitive. Yeah, we've had Mercury retrograde. If we want to find answers that aren't repetitive and an opportunity to reflect, but something to take forward in our actions, we must go in further. We must dive in deeper. We must connect. In this deck in particular, it's the inner child. We must connect to that light. For me, it is the inner child that is frightened of losing everything, that has made many, many reasons for me not to take things to the next level. We still have step by step, but I can acknowledge that, I can feel that, and honour what is then needed as a result. And this is the opportunity that we have, particularly on the Monday with the Queen of Pentacles. It's about nurturing the body. It's about nurturing abundance and what that means to us. And part of abundance, yes, of course, money. Yes, of course, connections and relationships. But connections to ourselves. Being very grounded, not grinded into who we are. Really connecting to what brings us joy, what brings us love, what brings us hope, what brings beauty to us. You know, it's not toxic gratitude this week. It's about acknowledging where we may not feel that, where we may feel sad, where we may feel grief, where we may feel lost, and really honing in to what we are grateful for, allowing that to take us forward. It's not enough, but to take us forward into more examples of this. An example, feeling really, really great with my husband this week. And of course, there's that knee-jerk reaction and that vulnerability to pull back. So instead, just leaning in and enjoying the happiness and the joy that I feel with him. There's going to be a to and fro energy, because the more we open our heart this week, the more we're going to feel vulnerable. And it's not about steamrolling through. Now, believe it or not, I am one of those that's like, you only live once, but it's not actually about steamrolling through. Just gently, gently easing yourself into the newer version of what is around you, yourselves included, in order to ground into that, to embody the changes. There isn't any rush. You are better to embody the changes in every moment rather than one big blowout, okay? Rather than one big rites of passage. There's been so many changes on the larger scale this week, very much nurturing the smaller shifts by being aware of them, by having presence with them, by acknowledging that they're even there. So I didn't realize any of this was even there in the way that it was until things started to improve this weekend. So yes, being aware of that. We can really notice our wounds when things aren't great. What happens when they are good? How do we feel then? On the Tuesday, there's an essence of, or is it me type energy, and I can feel that in myself, but there's also an essence of, am I the only person that feels this? Am I the only person that goes through this? Am I the only person that pushes away what I want? Am I the only person that doubts what I need? This weekend I found it beautiful to have many readers and healers that said they were unable to read or heal for themselves. Part of our learning process is to recognize we only can go so far alone. Okay, so this feeling of, is it just me, can be a protective thing as well. Seek out others that may be feeling the same way. Seek out others that may, wisdom isn't always from those that have never experienced what you're going through. A lot of the times we can really get drawn to those that have gone through what we're going through or are going through that, because there's a medicine there to be shared. Be mindful that it can confuse the situation. It's the age old, when you get addicts that are drawn to each other, or abuse survivors that are drawn to each other. So be aware of that magnetism as well that can confuse the situation. However, underneath it, there is a strength to be built in the uncertainties that we all face. There are answers in the unknown, but we need to surround ourselves with others that feel that way too, so that we can discuss this, so that we can connect to this, so that we can rebuild upon this. On the Tuesday we have the Seven of Cups, and on a bog standard level, yes, of course, once we've grounded into who we are and what we want and what we have to offer and the changes that have happened, we have that knee-jerk reaction of, whoa, what do I do now? How do I move forward with this? Well, that is going to come through in a very physical reaction. I can feel that in my higher heart. So just tapping the thymus, just taking time, just allowing the body to not get so inflamed. When we feel like we don't know what we're doing, it's because we've got inflamed. It's because we've got stressed. It's because we're trying to figure out answers based on the future or the past. So come back to that present moment. Allow uncertainty and indecisions to become expansion and opportunities and curiosity. Can't do that when we want to get rid of something. We can't do that when we want to fix something. We can't do that when we want to understand in order to change something. Having full embodied curiosity this week can be the most nurturing thing we can do for our soul and any choices that we now are facing. On the Wednesday, we have the Queen of Cups, and that's where I feel like I might run some EFT sessions actually online. Yeah, that's where I feel like I want to tap in the sea of tranquility just below the ribs, on the xiphisternum. So just where the ribs meet and start to come apart, I can see the wishbone. I can see the wishbone. Tapping that point of tranquility when you feel uncertain, when you feel yourself coming out of flow, really tapping that and tapping back into the wish. Tapping back into how you want to feel, tapping back into what you want to share, tapping back into what flow is for you, connection is to you. We can get really moved this week with our emotions. There's a great opportunity to plug that I'm doing a creative expression session at the end of the month, all to do with the emotions. And actually that feels quite important, to acknowledge what is out there, to share what is out there, your own included, and to be okay with that. And this week it very much feels like that. We're still in Leo season, okay? We're still in that heart expansive, this is me type energy, particularly August, Leo. Really expressing who we are, owning who we are, but acknowledging that that can make us feel insecure as well. There's this common misunderstanding with Leos that they are full of confidence, that they never wobble, that they don't feel vulnerable. And with a heart that open, or even in this time, Leo energies aside, we all have Leos in our chart, we all have that part, but with the heart wide open, there is vulnerability there. Of course there is, and taking time to acknowledge that this week is going to be important. Coming back to that steady point of our emotions, sharing what we offer, acknowledging that by standing in our light, by being in our flow, that will encourage us to keep moving forward. We will feel the support that we've been looking for, and with that there are no reasons to then not move forward other than fear, and we will become aware of that with compassion, with love, with intuition, with healing, with creativity. On the Thursday, there is more to that on the Wednesday, or it can feel as if there's more to that on the Wednesday. On the Thursday, we move into the Three of Swords. And what I love about this deck, and I'm going to show this deck, I'm going to show this wounded heart that is being repaired, right? We have the Three of Swords, and in this deck, there are no swords in there anymore. There are no mindsets that are damaging in there anymore. There is just the need to repair, to suture, to heal, to allow that pain to show us on the Thursday where we may not have and what we may need as a result. You can see in this card again, there is a temptation this week to really look at the bog standard parts of things as well, and that can be necessary to embody things. So you can see on this card on the Thursday, there are almost cords coming off of the heart. Yes, it would be a wonderful opportunity to look at connections that we may have that are pulling at the heartstrings, that are stopping us from healing the divide we may have felt towards our own light, towards each other, towards our own dreams and our own ambitions, towards our own flow, particularly our own narratives as well. So without being aware of the fear that I have of being happy, of stepping into my light, this totally full expression of being completely petrified, of losing everything that I love, if I hadn't been aware of that, there are so many narratives this weekend that could have continued, that would have stopped me from doing the market, that would have stopped me from going to the car boot, that would have turned me into a right madam in front of my husband for no particular reason. You know, all of these things. Be aware of our narratives, the relationships, the situations around us that are encouraging us to pull ourselves open and look at where fear has become the inspiration. On the Friday, we have the Two of Swords, and again, it does feel as if there's more to be seen here, and there is more to be seen here, but it isn't about external. In the Two of Swords, her eyes are covered. We have the crow wisdom around us from the Five of Swords, only it is that is now no longer nagging at us, but blinding us to what is in front of us. Being aware that that can be beneficial, an opportunity to go within, but it can literally, on a practical level, blind us to what is in front of us. There are two paths here this week, two ways of seeing things, and both are valid, both are important. So we can see it from a mystical, more spiritual, intuitive perspective. However, the practical is needed as well. By the end of the week, it's that we're asking to bring together. So let's look at that. On the Monday, we may be encouraged to look at where our finances and our physical body needs to be nurtured. On the Tuesday, emotionally, that is going to open us up to more experiences and choices that we may feel uncertain about. On the Wednesday, it's a great opportunity, one, for healing, for plugging our healing. This individual was sat with a sound bowl, so it'd be a great opportunity to really look at sound healing, sound therapy, but also to get to the ocean, to get to the things that bring creative flow within us, to get to anything that can help us step back into who we are and nurture our emotions. On the Thursday, that is going to bring heartbreak with that is going to bring indecisions with that's going to bring choices with that, as we decide, is this good for me? Is this helping me to expand? Is this helping me to grow? I can see what's going on here, but how much of this is taking my time and my attention and my energy, and where could that be better served for my own heart's calling and my own heart's expansion? On the Friday, yes, it can feel as if we are blinded to what is in front of us, but that is an opportunity to go within, to find any answers that may have been hidden underneath all the rubble. What I can see is almost the tower situation here this week. Even though it hasn't come up, it can feel like it's been a monumental change on so many levels. Allowing the rubble to clear, sifting through what is underneath from within you. I can see the sands here. In this card as well, there's a lot of lines on this individual's arm, and I'm being drawn to acknowledge self-harm, but to acknowledge self-harm in the many, many ways that it can come through our own actions as well, to ensure that our actions aren't actually causing more pain to us, and being very honest with that. And the only way to do that is to stop looking at what's in front of us and really, really go within. Come the weekend, we have the 9 and 3 of Cups. It's a beautiful opportunity this week to really get clear on what is calling us, what it is we want, what helps us to open up to who we are. Yes, of course, that's going to come with things rising, like shadows that have stood in the way of that. Yes, of course, that's going to come with doubts and insecurities, and the biggest heartbreak is not following our heart, right? That's going to come with that. And one of the most healing, compassionate things we can do is to do that, to honour that, whether that makes sense or not, whether that voice in our mind, our ego, our neighbours, our family, our whatever that energy is that's reflecting it back to us, that we have seen as a wisdom, cannot take over the wisdom of the heart. And this week we're going to be shown where it has, not to berate, not to judge, not to point fingers, but to empower us to step back into that and allow the wound of not listening to our heart to become the healing of it by doing so for the future. On the Saturday we have the 9 of Cups, and on the Sunday we have the 3 of Cups, and it feels as if the Saturday and Sunday are going to roll into one. Once we are open to the treasure, to the gifts of our own heart coherence, then anything that we're trying to deliver comes quicker, comes more beautifully, comes more embodied and united. This card is the card also of sisterhood, and it feels very important to acknowledge that. And it's uncomfortable for me. I'm definitely more comfortable in the masculine energy, and that this morning okay, that this week is what we're being encouraged to feel into. How comfortable, particularly of the female gender, how comfortable are we in embracing the feminine? How comfortable are we in feeling things? How comfortable are we in being uncertain in our own intuition? How comfortable are we in healing our own heart? How comfortable are we in creating with what is going on within us? We do have overall the Hermit card, and yes, this is an opportunity to connect to our inner wild. Yeah, you know, I can't remember. Let me have a look. Let me have a look. To bring it full circle, let's have a look, see what Saturn is sextiling Uranus, and it says here something clicks between stability and freedom. Oh, the safe choice doesn't have to be boring, and the bold move doesn't have to blow everything up. There's a middle path, a new structure, and solution is being birthed. Well, there you go. I could have just shared the astrology that I've just seen, but we may find that come the end of it, by the end of the process, we may say, oh, well, I could have just done da 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 da. It's a process, guys. The wisdom comes from the process of embodying, experiencing, feeling, working through and creating with whatever is going on for you. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. It helps the heart to expand. It's the process itself that helps us to expand in our energy, in our humanity, in our wisdom. You know, there's such a difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is what we're told. Knowledge is what we discover on one level. Wisdom is what we do with it and how we apply it. And this week, that's the role of the hermit, right? He doesn't just find the light, he walks with the light in the darkness. And that is the opportunity this week. So let's have a little look. It is, I'm being drawn to my little gargoyle friend here. It is about acknowledging the less than aesthetic divine within us, within the world, for the, yeah, I'm going to say, even though it sounds absurd, the beauty that it can bring. Okay, so we have one major arcana, and it is the major arcana of this year. It has always been the guiding archetype of this year. It's the hermit. Now in this, it is the inner child. And if we look at anything that we do or anything that we want to experience in life, yes, the inner child has wounds. Yes, the inner child, you know, could benefit from healing. And yes, there's a lot of workshops out there about the inner child. However, there's been a huge amount of separation from the power and treasure of the inner child as well. The beauty of the inner child, the play, the fun, the creativity, the wisdom, the light of the inner child. Yeah, the unconditional love, of the inner child. This week it's an opportunity to ensure that we're not fixing that, that we're actually receiving it. It is the energy that guides us completely, and has been throughout this year, the hermit. It's not about showing our light. It's not about guiding others with that light. It's not about taking that light forward. You can see in this card here, she's put the light to one side. It's about being it and what that means to us. Radiating it by receiving it. So many indecisions and heartbreak and doubts and fears come literally from just not embracing and accepting who we are on our fullest potential. And I get it, I do it, we all do it. It's that saying, isn't it? It's what we fear the most is our light, our greatest version of ourselves. Now, that's not to say that you're not the greatest version of yourself in every moment. And this week, it is that I want to emphasize. It is the nurture of accepting who you are in each part of the process. We so often get caught up in what we want to be when we grow up, that growing up can be a very strenuous chore and task. Don't lose sight of the journey. We then have one pentacle card. Of course, it's the Queen of Pentacles. Don't lose sight of the journey. Look at everything that you have gained. Be proud of that. Ground into that. Connect to that abundance of experiences and wisdom and healing and beauty and wealth of femininity here. This card is just sovereign, right? Sovereignty isn't about being the best polished version of yourself. Sovereignty is, well, it's different for us all, but sovereignty is just that, different for us all. It's about being the most connected version of yourself you can be, being authentic and true with who you are, with where you are. We then have 1, 2, 3, 4 cup cards. So the stability and restriction can come from the emotions, and I want to pull it all to one side. I want to pull it apart to pick the nice emotions over the not so nice emotions, and that's what's giving the uncertainty in the 7 of Cups. It's about flowing with them all. It's not until we feel uncertainty, it's not until we feel fear, it's not until we feel doubt, it's not until we feel into what is occurring that we get the opportunity to long for something else. And in that longing, it's that brings it in the intuition. Okay, so yes, it's a continuous process, but feeling something is an opportunity to look at what it is we're actually yearning for, or what we've pushed to one side, or what we're lacking, or more importantly, what we've forgotten. And that is what it all comes down to, the Queen of Cups. If we can step back into what we may have forgotten, our flow, our abundance, our wisdom, our love, our intuition, our own connection to our body and our emotions for the incredible gift that they are, then we can start to bring forward not only delivering what we enjoy, but enjoying what we're delivering. It is possible. You know, everyone always speaks about childbirth, and I'm very aware, obviously, there are different examples out there. But when we think about pain that has a reason behind it or a outcome behind it is less painful. And this week, we have been blinded to the outcome of any pain that we've been feeling, because it's about receiving what has happened as a result. So I can look back over my life and think back into all the many times some not nice things have happened that have now helped this inner child to feel frightened. But I can also see all the wonderful things that have, and allow that to just keep reassuring myself, just keep reassuring myself. What's beyond the fear this week? When I feel or fear I'm going to lose everything, it's because I love it so much. We can pick what we decide to focus on. That doesn't take away the fear. You know, courage is that saying, isn't it? It's not doing something. It's doing it and feel without fear. It's doing it and feeling the fear anyway. You know, we can hold space for both this week. We have 3 sword cards. I nearly forgot the 5 of swords. Nearly forgot the 5 of swords. Now, this nagging energy in our mind can be the turning point if we can ground into our body and really feel what's being said and conversed with our body through our reactions. It can be the turning point here. We don't have to keep shedding this blood, this pain, this war externally and internally. You know, there is an opportunity here to feel into what is going on in our mindset and allow that to transform our reactions. But that does mean reconnecting to our heart. That does mean acknowledging that these beliefs are there. That does mean taking ownership for our view of what is going on internally and externally. Not like the 2 of swords and completely, you know, it's nothing to do with me, it's not my problem. Actually, we all have a part to play in everything that is going on around us. And it's really, really important to take a moment to feel back into what we're contributing to the collective this week. Because then underneath it all, we have the Ace of Swords, which is a new way of thinking. If we acknowledge that we are part of the problem, we can also then accept we could be part of the solution as well. A different way of thinking, a different mindset here. I could quite easily have argued with my husband this weekend. Not felt into the fact that I felt vulnerable because I loved the bones of him. Yes, still 17 years down the line, there's that vulnerability there. And I could have quite easily just picked a fight so I could shut my heart down. But actually being aware of what's going on, being grounded in that, that's when we create the change on the path that we walk. And that's the opportunity this week to feel into the narratives, the stories, the protection, the safety, particularly the well-meaning. What's beneath it? What is initiating the reactions within us? And are they from a different mindset now? Are they healing the heart? Are they providing new steps forward? Are they grounding us and empowering us to embody our experiences? Or are they causing more of the same thing? You know where I am. I'll see you next week. Take care.